From the studios of WPGX, Fox 28, it's News View with Don Arias.
Good evening and welcome to News View. I'm Don Arias. You know, this evening we're going to talk to a really interesting guy. As a parent of someone with autism, I find it extraordinarily inspiring that someone with autism can actually write a book. And we've got a book here called Tech Tactics that tells you all you need to know about saving money when it comes to computers and electronics. And the author I have with me here today is Mr. William Keeley. I'm sorry.
How you doing today?
I'm doing good, William. I got to tell you, when I found out about, I had met you, I think, briefly before, and when I found out about your book at that benefit that we were both at, I was just so inspired. You've met my son, Vincent, right?
I have.
Yeah, and Vincent, my son Vincent, was diagnosed with autism back in 1998. And at the time, autism was diagnosed in only 4 of 10,000 people. Now, it's upwards of 1 in, I think, 99, or 1 in 100 now.
Some places 1 in 72, depending on the area.
1 in 72. So it is more common than Down syndrome. It's more common than childhood diabetes. And a lot of people don't understand that this condition is something that can easily be overcome and can even be embraced. You know, we talk a lot about diversity nowadays. We need to start thinking about neural diversity, because there are citizens with autism who can make great contributions, just like William has done with his book. I get a little emotional when I talk about it, but we'll talk more after the break.
We now return to News View. Here again, Don Arias.
Welcome back to News View. I'm Don Arias. We're speaking with William Keeley, the author of a book called Tech Tactics. William is a citizen with autism. William, welcome to the show, and thanks so much for coming out today.
Oh, it's an honor to be on the show.
You know, I find your story really interesting. I talked to your mom earlier, and she said that when you were younger, people thought you were retarded.
That's true.
How did that make you feel, or didn't you care?
Well, I hated it.
Mm-hmm.
I've come up with, and when I was in middle school, I came up with a way of dealing with it.
And how did you deal with that?
Well, anytime I knew there was going to be a classroom contest on anything, anything deal with knowledge, I'd make sure I knew the subject better than everybody else.
Well, good.
And I'd make sure I outshine them each time.
Well, that must have made your mother very proud. I got to tell you, my son has been consistently underestimated throughout his scholastic years, only because he has a lack of verbal ability. You're pretty conversant. I mean, you speak very well, and that probably worked to your advantage.
Well, it did. I speak 3 languages, 3 human languages, and about 6 computer languages. So.
Yeah, and I want to talk more about that too. So growing up, it was a little bit of a challenge for you, but you somehow came up with coping mechanisms to deal with what you would call neurotypical people.
Well, with autistic people, we either sink or we swim. There's not, there's more benefits, more government benefits for people who are autistic.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was growing up, we were completely mainstreamed. You either sink or swim, so I decided to swim.
So you were in a regular classroom.
Regular class. Throughout my elementary and middle school years. I took honors classes in high school.
Did you ever run into bullying? Was that a part of your life growing up?
Middle school, yes. And you attend a bigger city school, you're going to deal a lot more with bullying. But I went to a little country school, Grand Ridge, and most of the people there were pretty good.
Oh, good. And did they understand autism?
Most don't even know I'm autistic.
Really? So they just think you may be a little different than most,
Right.
or you're just maybe shy or something.
Right.
I find that with my son, because he looks like a typical boy, looks like a typical kid. People tend to treat him okay, but the minute they try to have a conversation with him, they kind of back off a little bit. Do you find people treat you that way sometimes?
Well, I am socially invisible, but it does work to my advantage sometimes.
Oh, it does. Well, that's good. That's good. And how does that work?
Well, a lot of times people say things in front of me that they won't say in front of most people, and because I don't talk a lot about people and everything, I hear a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm. And I guess it's not as important to you what people say, is it, than a neurotypical person?
Well, it depends. I don't deal a lot with social hierarchy or anything like that, but you start talking about computers, electronics, welding, locksmithing, or anything like that, then you got my attention.
Yeah, you have a lot of interests, and I just want to tick off a few things here. That you have an associate's degree from Chipola College in electrical engineering.
That's electronics engineering, yes.
Electronics engineering. How did you find that? What inspired you to work with that type stuff?
Well, I always wanted to know how televisions, VCRs, well, they didn't have VCRs at the time, and computers worked, so I did a lot of studying. And when I was in the service for a while.
So you had a stint in the Navy, I understand.
Correct. I was in the naval nuclear program, study as electronics technician.
Well, you're a fascinating guy for doing all that with what some people would call a handicap, and I would just call a difference.
It's a difference. We're more, generally speaking, and all autistic people are different, but we seem to be more analytical. One thing that we can do, I find that neurotypicals in general cannot do, is we can separate our thoughts from our emotions.
That's tough. I know that because I married an Italian girl. So really, that's a feat in itself. So that almost gives you an advantage in the technical fields, doesn't it?
That does. A lot of autistic people, they work in sheltered workshops called NASA. Some of them work in Microsoft. I think Bill Gates might have Asperger's.
You might not get an argument there from some people.
Einstein, from what I've read about him, he seems to fit the criteria for classic autism.
So still waters run deep many, many times. Tell me about your work now. I understand you work as a consultant.
No, that's correct.
And what do you consult on? Computer stuff, or?
I do network troubleshooting, network design. I teach IT at the Autism Education Center in Lynn Haven.
I'm a techno peasant, so I don't know anything about computers. When they work for me, I love them. When they don't work for me, I hate them. And I got to tell you, this book, Tech Tactics, I started to read it, and it's for guys like me because it's real easy to read, and it's got a lot of good references and websites you can go to there as well. William, if I wanted to get a copy of this, how would someone get a copy of Tech Tactics?
Well, it is on Amazon. It's available for paperback and the Kindle edition. And you can also go to my author's website, WilliamKeeley.com.
WilliamKeeley.com. That's just great. I want to talk about also what inspired you to write the book.
A member of my congregation told me I need to write a book, and he kept at me for about a year.
So this came out of church.
Correct.
And because you had so much knowledge, and he thought that you should be able to share that with people, you decided to sit down and write this book.
That's correct. I wanted to put some more in it, but I couldn't afford to make it into an encyclopedia, so my next book should be out anytime soon.
Are you going to write another book?
I have most of it written. I just have to do cover design and formatting and that kind of thing.
Well, that's great. I want to talk also about the process of writing this book. We've got just a few seconds before we go to break, but let's talk about what it took for you to either sit down at the computer or typewriter or whatever and start penning this thing. We'll do that on the other side of the break, if that's okay. You're watching News View. I'm Don Arias, and I'm talking with a fascinating guy by the name of William Keeley.
We now return to News View. Here again, Don Arias.
Welcome back to News View. I'm Don Arias. I'm speaking with William Keeley, the author of Tech Tactics. William is a 44-year-old man with autism, and he's an inspiration to me and my family. William, tell us about how you wrote this book. You had mentioned that before the break that someone in your church had said you ought to write a book.
Well, what I did is I took made note of all the questions people had about computers. They asked me. And all the things I thought they would need to, that people would need to know about computers. And then I looked at all the programs I see out there and how expensive they were. So I use a lot of free software. And I'm not talking about pirated software, I'm talking about software that's written by hackers, put out for people to use without adware, spyware, and everything. And I just started making notes and typing. And after a while, I just started writing a chapter. I did a chapter on voice over IP communications. It was basically internet phone. My first chapter is how to repair a computer at home.
Well, I need to read that one. I got a couple broken computers around my house. I'll just buy new ones because I don't know how to fix them.
Well, there's 5 different things you can do to actually bring your computer up to snuff. One is called check disk function. I have that in the book. The other is called defragmenting. And then there's clearing cache out and clearing the junk out. And I have the free programs in the book on how to do that. And then how to run antivirus and anti-spyware scans with more free programs that really do a good job in cleaning out a computer.
William, what sparked your initial interest in computers?
Well, it was the late 70s and early 80s. They had this game out called Space Invaders. I want to know how that worked.
I remember Space Invaders. I remember. So how did you learn about Space Invaders? Did you take apart your game? What was it? It wasn't Nintendo.
It was
Atari?
Actually, it came out in the time of the old Atari table tennis before they even had cartridges. And this was a stand-up arcade game. And I watched a technician take the money out of the machine. I'm looking at all the circuits on the board and everything. So I have to learn how to do this. I started buying books and reading.
Wow. So you're pretty well self-educated when it comes to
computers.
On computers. And then you went to college to learn more about it.
Correct. I learned the electronic aspects. I've read in books. I went to the Naval Nuclear Program. And after I got out, I found out you can't get a job with military credentials, so I went back, got an associate's degree in electronics engineering technology.
So it sounds like to me that you're a lifelong student.
Pretty much.
That you never stop learning and you never stop thinking.
I write a lot of programs myself.
And what advice would you give to, say, somebody like me who's the parent of a boy who has autism? How would I get him, find his niche? How would I find out what he's interested in?
Expose him to different things and watch him. I had one child who did not like counting money. But he knew every president front and back, could give you a recite history on the presidents. And I said, well, counting money is like looking at presidents. I link the two together, and from what I understand, he's probably interested in money now because he has to deal with presidents.
And yeah, it's all about the dead presidents, I guess. And so, so that's just another tactic that you use that helps people function. I know we talked during the break about eye contact, and I mentioned how hard it is for people with autism to make direct eye contact. And you mentioned a tactic that you have.
One, I look above the eyes at the forehead, or I look at the mouth.
And that way it doesn't freak you out about direct eye
Right.
contact, and you still will look polite and attentive that way.
That's correct.
That's just another great tactic, because we've had that issue with our own son for a lot of years, where you know, and that's just a symptom of autism. You can't make direct eye contact, and I think you're a genius for figuring these things out. Or did somebody teach you that?
Well, eye contact was drummed into me at school, in speech, in every place. Eye contact. So if I couldn't do it, I might as well learn how to fake it really well.
Yeah.
So.
Now, would you say you're a shy person by nature, or?
No.
No, you seem pretty outgoing. Oh, good, because my son's probably a little shy, a little shyer than most. When you were a little kid, were you a little more reclusive, maybe?
Maybe I wasn't as sociable.
Yeah, maybe not as sociable as you are now. But I got to tell you, with this Mother's Day coming up, you should give your mother a big hug for helping you out as much as you did, because I see what my wife goes through with my son, and it really is a lot of heavy lifting, but the rewards are so great, because you, William, are an inspiration to people like me and my wife and my son. We see what you've done with your life, and you wrote this wonderful book, and you're writing another one.
I am. Actually, I'm writing a couple, but the one I'm working on now is Tech Tactics, Publishing and Production Secrets. And I'm trying to have that either this month or next month.
Tech Tactics and Production Secrets?
Tech Tactics, Publishing and Production Secrets.
Okay, what's that going to be about?
How to produce movies, DVDs, CDs, and books using free software.
Wow, that sounds really cool. We got to run off to a break now, but let's talk more about the next book on the other side of the break, okay?
Okay.
You're watching NewsView. I'm Don Arias, and I'm speaking with William Keeley.
You're watching NewsView with Don Arias.
Welcome back to NewsView. I'm Don Arias. I'm speaking with William Keeley. He's the author of a great book called Tech Tactics. William, let's hear about your next project. You've got a new book that you're writing called Tech Tactics, Publishing and Production Secrets.
That's correct.
What's that going to be about, and how's that going to help us?
Well, most people, when they want to write a book, they buy very expensive software. And one thing, not everybody can afford spending about $2,000 or $3,000 to buy software to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have references and get people started on different free programs so you can use not only to write books, but to also author DVDs, Hollywood quality DVDs, how to do video editing and production, and audio editing and production, where this work can be sold different places, how to get the requisite numbers like a UPC code, ISBN number.
Wow. So all the little things you need to know to get published and do it on your own is going to be in this next book.
That's correct.
And when do you think this book will be out, William?
I'm hoping either end of this month or next month.
Wow. Well, I hope you'll come back on and talk about the book once it's out.
I'll be glad to.
Now, if people want to get Tech Tactics, and I got to tell you, this is a wonderful thing. Tech Tactics, can we get a shot of this?
Money Saving Secrets.
Tech Tactics, Money Saving Secrets. Let's not forget it saves you money. Go to Amazon.com.
You can go to Amazon.com or WilliamKeeley.com.
Or WilliamKeeley.com. And
it's available for the Nook, the Kindle, as well as the paperback edition.
well, like I said, I've really been inspired by just meeting you and talking with you. And parents of children with autism or young adults with autism should draw a lot of inspiration from you and your story, as well as draw a lot of knowledge from the books that you produce. I really thank you for coming on today, and make sure to give your mom a big hug from me when you see her.
Okay, I enjoyed being on the show. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks so much, William. I look forward to great things from you. Well, this is Don Arias. You've been watching News View. We'll see you next time.